Okay, this is a little different. Today, doing this way, we don't often get a rock star in our service or in our church, but that's kind of where we're at today. So a few months ago now, we have this normal Sunday, and we kind of look up, and here is this really large person of color that walks in. And it's not totally unusual here, but when you're, how tall are you? 6'7"?
6'7".
Okay, when you're 6'7", and you can't hide, then it was obvious there was something different. But it was like, we had other families that were here visiting the same day, but nobody knew they were visiting, and so they each were talking to the other one like they were members here, which is always amusing to me when that happens. And so there's a story behind everything here. Now, I'm going to tell you, you don't have to worry that next week I'm going to call you up here and I'm going to interview you. Because there is some backstory here that is kind of compelling to me, and how I think it confirms that God is at work in ways that we don't always understand. And so we're gonna scratch the surface a little bit today. This is not an upfront counseling session, okay? That's not what this is. Dennis, I want you to first tell us about who your family is, who your family is back in your home country, a little bit about them, a little bit about here, your family here, so we can meet you a little bit.
Okay. Good morning. Thank you for having me. I am really happy to be here. Since the first time I stepped foot in this church, it really felt like home. And I am from Kenya. I was born and raised in Kenya. My father, who is dead now, is not alive. And my mother and my four or three sisters, babe?
Okay, this is a bad start.
I have a family, I promise. We've been tested, we belong to each other. I have three sisters, I think. Three, yeah, and one brother. And one of my sisters is in Seattle, the other one is in Germany, and the other one lives in Nairobi. And you may get to meet them in September or October. They'll be coming here for my surgery. And my mom is also there, and she might be coming as well. So that's my family back in Kenya. My family here, my wife, Alison, I think most of you know her. She's right there. For those of you who don't know her, maybe you can just wave.
She was not born in Kenya?
No, she was not born in Kenya.
Okay.
She was born in North Carolina. Yeah, and so we've been married 15 years. This is our 16th year of marriage. We have two kids, Angela and BJ. They are in the youth group right now. Angela is 14, turning 15 in next month, and BJ is 11, turning 12 in November. That's it.
Okay, you alluded to just a little bit. You can't get away with saying it and then moving on. You're going to have surgery later this next month.
Yes, 27th.
What is that about?
27th of September, I will have open heart surgery for the second time. I had my first open heart surgery 20 years ago, and I'm going to have it again to replace two valves in my heart. So I had rheumatic fever growing up, and so 20 years ago, rheumatic fever eats your heart valves, So they had to go in and fix the valves, but the valves are now done. They need to be replaced. So I'm going to have mechanical valves. So I'm thinking the night after the surgery, Pastor, you can come and pray for me again to get saved because they might have cut Jesus out of my heart. So.
Yeah, I'm not good at that.
I have to get saved again just in case, man.
Okay, so it was one of the first weeks that you were here, and most all of you know that Simon is our youth pastor, Simon and Becca, and Simon and Becca have a similarity to Dennis and Allison, and that they found each other the very first Sunday here, okay? And because Simon is from Kenya likewise. And so the next week or so, Dennis and I go out to lunch just to get to know each other. And by the way, they live like 1 block away from here.
Yes.
So Dennis comes by my office every day looking to see if my car is here. Because if my car is here, then it is his personal invitation to come in and talk. But we went out to lunch that next week, and one of the funniest things that he said, I asked a question about was, so what was it like, meeting Simon and having, kind of a mixed culture marriage already here in the church? Because Becca was obviously not born in Kenya. And Dennis's line to me was, "Oh, Simon is not Kenyan." I go, "What?" Okay, this is Simon's father-in-law.
That's his father-in-law. I can attest to that.
And so I go, "Why? I mean, what are you saying?" He goes, he is American. And we began part of a deeper education for me about immigrant children who come and move here with their families, leaving homeland and coming to a new country, and then becoming kind of, where do I fit? Family life at home might be Kenyan, but life at school and life on ball teams and life, other places is fully American. If you were to spend time with their children, BJ and Angela, they say y'all more than people in. It's just like all the time. It's really amusing. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to tell us a little bit about Kenya and the whole kind of tribal structure about that, because you and Simon did not grow up in the same tribe.
No.
You are rather judgmental about his tribe, by the way.
I won't say judgmental. I just have an opinion about it.
Anyway, explain to us about the tribal kind of structure.
So Kenya has 50 million people. It's approximately the size of Texas, and we have 47 plus tribes in the country. And that's not impressive when you think of Tanzania, that has over 100 tribes that speak completely different languages in the same country. So we have 5 major tribes. The largest tribe in Kenya is the Kikuyus. And every tribe has a stereotype. I don't know if you guys have stereotypes here in America of different people from different states, California, Texas, or wherever. So the largest tribe is Kikuyu, and then the Kalenjin, and then the Luo, which is my tribe, and then we have the Luyas, and then we have the Kambas, which is Simon's tribe. So these tribes, they have like a silent rivalry, and dislike of each other, which comes really to the surface every 5 years whenever there's an election, and depending on where you fit in that tribal war. Like right now, we have the two leading candidates in Kenya are Luo and Kalenjin. And then you have Kambas who are going with the Luo, so now we like each other. You know, probably in the last election, we didn't like each other. So it's just kind of like, it's very interesting. So the stereotype for the tribes is the Kikuyus love money. So if you meet any Kikuyu guy and you want to, you know, crack a Kenyan joke, just make a joke about money and everybody's gonna laugh in the room, you know? And the Kalenjin, you see all the runners that you see in Kenya, all the marathon winners, they're not Kenyan, they're from one tribe in Kenya, and that's the tribe of the Kalenjin. So everybody sees me and they say, "You're a Kenyan, do you run?" I'm like, "Yeah, from danger." You know? I don't run. And then the third is the Luos, and we are the intellectuals, you know. And
I think you're making this up.
my wife is there, she can attest, I'm not making it up. So Obama, your first African-American president is from my tribe. So we are known for being really good public speakers as well. So you can see where he got that from. So you can see I'm not lying now, because Obama is a very good public speaker. His father was a very good public speaker. And a lot of people in our tribes, a lot of the lawyers in Kenya, engineers, I didn't get that. I'm just a mere, theologian. So I didn't get the engineering gene. I don't know what happened. And then the lawyers, they like eating. So if you want to make a lawyer joke, they eat a lot. And it's not even a stereotype. They know how to eat food. And then the Kambas.
That's Simon?
That's Simon's tribe. I don't know if you knew this, but they have.
Well, I've been to Kitui.
They are expert witch doctors. So if you're looking for a good witch doctor in Kenya, you go to the tribe of Kambas. So you don't mess with them.
His parents are very Kenyan.
They're very Kenyan.
I can see that.
Yeah. So that's the stereotype for there. So I always joke with him. I don't want to joke. I don't want to play with you. I don't want to offend you because your tribe is known for
So
things they can do to me.
where did the Maasai fit in all of that?
Huh?
Where did the Maasai fit in all that?
The Maasai are the warriors. So they are the guys that, like people think that this happened a long time ago, but they actually still kill lions. That for you to, so they have like age mates that kind of get circumcised at the same time around the age of 12, and then they're sent as a group to the jungle, and they have to go kill a lion before they become men.
On the Mara, right?
Yeah. So, but they are not supposed to do that right now, but they still try to do it because it's illegal to kill wildlife in Kenya right now.
Look, the whole witch doctor thing, that when you told me about Simon's tribe, one of the other things that you said about them is that they're
very nice.
They're nice people. And so when Simon and Dennis are together, pay attention, because you will see tribal contrast in how they interact. Simon may be the nicest person you will ever meet, ever. Yeah, it's just the way it is.
And that is the Kambas. Yeah.
Dennis is not. And
please,
so,
I'm a nice person.
but you will see tribal cultural differences right here in front of you. It is just fascinating to watch that. I don't know if you are a person that is. I am mesmerized by culture and cultural differences. I love seeing that, and we have it going on right here in a way that I never would have realized. Okay, so
actually, Lynn is from the largest tribe in Kenya. She's not here today.
Yeah,
but she's Kikuyu. So we have 3 Kenyans in this church, but I think we have the most Kenyan population in any American church in Louisville. Yeah.
Okay, so I want you to tell how you and Allison met.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't born there, but she
No.
obviously got there. Okay.
So she came to Kenya to look for a husband, and she saw me, and man, the rest is history. She couldn't resist. No, that's not the truth. That's what I'd like it to. I like the story to be like that, but that's not the story. So she was a missionary in Kenya, serving in one of the most unfriendly tribes in the coast of Kenya, Muslims from the Digo tribe who mix witchcraft with Islam. And so they are like the very, very hostile. And I don't know what possessed her. She went to live in that village by herself. You know, I think you were the trial. They were trying out this, and they used you. You're the guinea pig for this project that they want this seminary student to go to this village and minister to Muslim women in that village. The other one was sensible enough to get out of the deal, you know. But I'm glad she didn't, because if she did, I wouldn't be here with her, you know. So we met, and I was in America going to school. So I went back, and my friend Rusty and I went to, Rusty is an American, was my roommate in Kenya, and we went for Thanksgiving in Nairobi. And while we were there, we had a mutual friend from Denton that was also there as a missionary. So we went to see her for Thanksgiving. So Rusty forgot his pillow at Crystal's place. And American pillows are very comfortable. Kenyan pillows is like sleeping on a rock. So we had to go get back the pillow. So Crystal said, hey, don't come. There's someone coming to Mombasa that will bring the pillow to you. And then that person was Allison. Brought the pillow to Rusty and I. And that morning, we met at a church that I was actually preaching at. But I didn't tell her that I was the preacher on that Sunday morning. I was the guest speaker. So I preached, and she asked me, how are you going to know who I am? I said, I asked her, how am I going to know who you are? She said, don't worry, just look for the only white person in the church. And lo and behold, I found her, we found the pillow, and the rest is history.
Very good.
Yeah, she has a longer version of the story.
Maybe we'll have you up next time to tell more. We kind of like juicy details here of those things. So. I want you to tell us a little bit about. I'll give you a chance to think for just a second, but about church life in Kenya. From an American missionary point of view, because that's part of my life prior to coming to Texas years ago. I was raised in a context of missions, and I understood kind of from an early age that there was something that was, let's say, a little skewed about American missions, American missionary work. Because the places that I had traveled in other countries, when I would go and visit, and I would go into a missionary compound, or I would go out with some people out into the jungle somewhere, or out wherever, and we would meet up with church leaders out in those remote areas or in the city, it didn't matter. What I found was American church done in another country. I mean, there were places there's places that I visited that when I walked in and went to a Sunday morning church service, I felt like I was at home at First Christian Church in National City, California. they had the same order of service. They said things the same way. It may have been in a different language, but I knew what they were doing. I mean, the deacons of the church marched in the same order when they brought communion out, and all of those kinds of things. Songs were the same. Order of service was the same. And I learned early on that it was pretty hard for American missionaries not to bring the whole package of American church and not just the story of Jesus, and let the culture that they were in define how it would be done. So I'm asking you, what is church life like? And what kind of, a secondary question is, what kind of influence have American missionaries brought over the last 100 years?
Man.
In 5 minutes.
Wow. That's a 20,000 page book that I'm supposed to cliff note in one page. One of the things that I am very passionate about is studying culture and the influence of culture in Christianity. And so I have had the privilege to live both in America and in Kenya. So those things become very clear very quickly. So when we are in Kenya, we have to realize that it's the missionaries that brought the gospel to Kenya less than 100 years ago. Like, you think about that, that's not a long time ago, when it started really having like visible influence and change in our continent. But Americans have had over 300 years to grow into Christianity and to make a culture out of it. And so we look up to America as the big brothers, the big brother Christians. And so we unconsciously or consciously believe and think that the things that Americans are doing are actually the biblical things. So when they came to Africa, remember, there was no education. People could not read. So if I read the Bible to you and I tell you this is what the Bible says, you just parrot the same thing. You just say, the Bible says this, my pastor said this, or this person said this. But one of the things that they did, they started building schools and teaching people, and the primary goal for that school was to teach them how to read the Bible. And so the Christian influence is seen all over the country of Kenya. In fact, they say that Kenya is 80% Christian. Now, whether you want to believe that or not, that's up to you. I don't. Because for me, Christianity is more than just someone going to church on Sunday, or someone called Dennis and another person called Muhammad. So if your name is Dennis, you're a Christian. If you're a Muhammad, you're a Muslim. If you are, Putur, you're an Indian, and all that. And so in our official forms in Kenya, when you fill them, they ask your religion. So people will not go, people tick the boxes according to where they go on a particular day of the week. So Muslims go to the mosque on Sunday or on Friday, so they check Muslim. Christians go to church on Sunday or Saturday, depending on if you're a Seventh-day Adventist, so they check Christian. So one of the things that really started standing out for me was that even though outwardly speaking, people looked like Christians, inside they were still very African. And so it's a veneer of Western image couched under a thick piece of wood of African values and culture. I don't know if that makes sense. And so on Sunday, they sing the Christian song, they say the Christian words, they pray the Christian prayers, but on Monday through Saturday, they are back to whatever life it is that they live. So a lot of churches began to see that people still were going to witch doctors when they were sick, even though they were Christians. So the pastors started doing exorcism. You know what that is? Like removing demons. And so in Kenya, there's a demon for anything. So you have a demon for malaria, you have a demon for poverty, you have a demon for barrenness, anything. So if you look at an African charismatic pastor and an African witch doctor, and I know this sounds harsh, and I'm being recorded right now, so that's not really, so I have to be very careful what I say here, but they look really alike in the way that they exercise their exorcism. So that, when you go to a church that is led by a charismatic preacher, there's a lot of followers, and most of them go there because now that you're a Christian, you can't go to the witch doctor. Your witch doctor has become the pastor. So now you have this relationship that is not between Christians and their God, it's Christians and their pastors, you know. And so it's very, very, very shallow. So when you think about the African church, even though we've been around a long time now, probably over 50 years, but there is still we are very shallow in our theological thinking. And those of us who are very theologically sound, a lot of it is theoretical, because when we go into a context of where Americans are, we want to sound like we know what we're saying, even though what we're saying does not really influence how we live. Does that make sense?
It sounds American.
Sounds very American.
Maybe we got that from you guys.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, it makes me want to ask this question,
Yeah.
because you partially answered it already. But what is church leadership like in Kenya?
Man. So, when I met Pastor Mike, you know, every time I want to do something, you know, I come and ask him. I say, can I do this? Can I do this? And he started saying, you don't have to ask me to do anything, just do it. And I'm like, no, that's not how we do it in Africa. Pastors are, you know, they're the leaders. They're your spiritual authority. So, and then there is good parts of that, and then there is bad parts of that as well, where, you know, people can take advantage of that and become very lording over people. And so leadership in church is very respected. It is very unilateral. It's meaning there's one person on top, and everybody, you know, live to please them and do everything for them. When I go to Tanzania, for example, and my wife and I, we were in Tanzania in July last year doing this pastors' conference, and we arrived there with our Bibles, and she has her purse, and everybody runs to us and takes our things. And so she still, you know, resists and doesn't want them to take. And I'm like, no, it's okay. Just being nice, because as a pastor, you're not allowed to carry anything. So they carry everything for you, like it's almost like a king, you know.
Yeah, I need to write that down.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So that's church leadership is a very powerful role.
What does money play a big role in church life? We probably picture Kenya as very, very poor. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's the pictures that we see. Yeah. We don't always see accurate pictures. So mm-hmm. I'm asking out of ignorance in part. Do churches have a lot of money? Mm-hmm. Do pastors do sometimes what pastors in our country do? I mean, have you guys been following it's popping up more and more now about how much pastors make here in the United States? Have you seen some of those? I mean, millions and millions and millions of dollars here in our country, pastors making that in their little empires. Do you have that in Kenya also?
Yeah. So prosperity theology, I really don't like to call it theology because it's not, but prosperity movement where, are you guys familiar with that? That if you believe in God, your life is going to be, you know, rich and prosperous and all your problems are going to go away. You can imagine in a country like Kenya where, majority of the people live, under $2 or $3 a day, and somebody comes and tells them, if you accept Jesus, all your problems are going to go away. But the way that you do that is give me your money. So, which I've always been mesmerized at how stupid people can be, that the one person who is not giving is the most prosperous person in the church, and it is the pastor. And everyone that is giving, they are giving. I remember, and this guy comes and tells me he's waiting for his miracle. And you can imagine, I just came back from seminary in America, and majority of our time there was spent, just bashing prosperity preachers. And then this person comes and tells me that they are waiting for their miracle. I say, can you please elaborate? And he says, the pastor said, there is somebody here in this congregation, which is kind of, if I say that, there is probably somebody in the congregation is struggling financially. That you're struggling financially, and the reason why you're struggling financially is because God is telling you to give to his work, and you are not obeying. So today, I want you by faith to go and close your bank account and give all the money to God, and then he reads this verse and see if I won't open the windows of heaven and bless you with all kinds of blessing. So of course, they are charged emotionally, everybody's singing, crying, praying, and you can just see the emotions in these people, and then he goes the next day on Monday, closes his account, and he had about $600, which is 60,000 shillings. For this person, this is a lot of money, and he gives it all to the pastor. And so and this was like maybe 7-8 years later, he's still waiting for his miracle. And I say, brother, I hate to break this to you, but no miracle is coming. You were scammed, And so, and you think that this changes, but there's a lot of money. In fact, the richest church in the world is not in America. The richest pastor in the world is not an American pastor. It's an African pastor in Nigeria. And you're thinking, how can the richest pastor come from one of the poorest countries in the world? And you're thinking, yeah, it's because of prosperity theology. And people are taking advantage of people's weakness and vulnerabilities because they want health, they want wealth, and the only way to do that, God is going to bless you, but you have to bless God first, And so this idea of planting a seed. So I was speaking in Tanzania one time, and I told them, according to me, I feel like if God gives you seed, you need to go invest it, and then once you harvest, then 10% of that harvest, you can give it to God. You don't take your seed and then give it to God, and then you have nothing. That makes sense in my head, but it didn't make sense in their head. Because they say, our pastor said, you give the best to God, And so they give their money and their talents and their time, and it's growing church finances by manipulation, which is terrible.
I think that we have prosperity gospel in our country. I mean, we see it. It's generally found on television or in sometimes poorer areas and so forth. But it is not mainstream here, okay? It's probably more prevalent than we realize, but it's not mainstream, and it's pretty much condemned by the larger church here in our country. Over in your country, it is the mainstream. It is the way that it is done.
It's celebrated, actually.
And to do it differently, you are wrong.
Swimming against them.
So, and that's a huge, huge contrast in the way that we do things. Look, we all believe that we are to pray when we need God's help, okay? So nobody is saying that that's not what we do and that God can't miraculously provide. We all have our own stories. This is something entirely different. this is a money scam. Okay. Now in our last little bit of time, I got two questions. I want you to tell briefly the story that brought you the first time to the United States. How old were you, and what was the circumstance that brought you here?
So I got saved when I was 15 years old in Kenya. I went to a camp. I was tricked into going to the camp.
Yeah.
As a 15-year-old, I was told there's going to be girls and food. I'm going to be away from home for a whole week. I was like, man, what 15-year-old is not going to sign up for that? They didn't talk about Jesus, So I went there and I'm thinking, man, they're singing church songs, these people. So I stayed there for a whole week, and long story short, at the end of that week, no juicy details, but they're there. I got saved, and I was told, after getting saved, go to church. I said, okay, I'm saved now, what do I do? He said, go to church. I'm like, okay, I'll go to church, I can do that. And in Kenya, church is every day. So on Monday, there's something going on Tuesday, there's something going on. So I'll go to school and then go to church in the evening. And I sit at the back, choir is practicing, and I'm just sitting at the back there because I was told saved people go to church. On Tuesday, Sunday school teachers are meeting. I come, sit at the back, listen to them. Why? Because Christians go to church. And on Wednesday, we had a midweek Bible study. Thursday, there was something going on. Friday, there is something called Kesha, which is overnight prayers. And so we go there, and you pray for 1 minute, and you think you prayed for an hour. You open your eyes, and it's just a minute, and you have a whole 7 hours ahead of you. But you're there because Christians go to church. Saturday, we came to clean the church. The youth cleaned the church, so we'll come clean the church for Sunday service. And on Sunday, the whole day is church. From 7 to 7, you're in church. And so that was my life as a teenager for a whole year. I got really tired. I was like, man, after 1 year, I'm thinking, I can't do this for the rest of my life. This is hard, man. Christianity is hard. I can't do this. So I gave up, and I kind of, quote unquote, backslid. And during that time, I met an American missionary called Chris. Chris was in Kenya. He moved into our neighborhood. It was really interesting because every 6 o'clock in the morning, I'd see this guy is like 6'4", and he's a big man, and he's walking around our neighborhood and he's talking to himself. And I thought only Africans were crazy. I didn't know that white people were crazy. But then I came to realize that he was doing a prayer walk. So he was walking and praying in our community. So we met with him, and he asked me if I had, this was maybe 2 years later after I got saved, if I have a Bible. I said, no, I don't have a Bible. He said, are you saved? I said, I'm saved. So Chris gave me my first Bible. And then he said, please let us meet every week, and I will teach you the Bible. So I'd never read the Bible before, because I wasn't told that Christians read the Bible. I was told that Christians go to church. And so I started reading the Bible, and I'm like, oh my word, this is an interesting book, but it didn't make sense to me. So I was supposed to meet with him once a week for him to teach me what I was reading. So what was supposed to be a once a week meeting ended up being an everyday meeting, because I had questions. Every day I'd read the Bible. I'm sitting outside his house at the end of every day after he has had a long day of teaching. So when I come to see you here, I did that to Chris also.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, and he's like, what are you doing here? I said, I read John 3:16, man, and I've never seen this before, And he would patiently teach me the Bible, and we did this for a whole year. And so I felt like, man, I was getting a grasp on this book, and I felt like I want to teach people this book, but I don't want to do it because I need to be trained. At this point, Chris has moved to Uganda, Jinja in Uganda. Jinja is the place where the Nile River starts. It's the source of River Nile, and he lived there. So I get in the bus. It's almost a 20-hour bus ride from one country to another. I get there, and I did not know that before you go visit people in another country, you have to tell them you're coming. So I call him. When I get there, I say, Chris, I'm here. He's like, what do you mean you're here?
You still haven't learned that you don't do that.
He said he's my friend. And that's what you do to friends.
Yeah.
You just show up.
You just show up. Okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
And so I'm there, and Chris, so I told Chris, so I've packed my suitcase, and I said, Chris, I'm moving in with you, and I'm not leaving until I can teach the Bible the way you do. And he was like, man. So he had these tapes that that was 1st and 2nd Timothy. He gave them to me. I listened to them, and I was teaching. I was listening to them, writing everything they were saying, and then going and teaching them to people. And people thought I was like the best Bible teacher in the whole entire Kenya, but it wasn't mine. It was just parroting somebody else's teaching. And then, so Chris opened a door for me. I said, I want more. I want more. And so he opened the door for me to come to America and get my training right here in America. I think I was 24 years old, no, 22 years old when I came the first time here in America. And then I was here for 3 years, and then I went back to Kenya. So I told God, if you bring me to America, I will learn the Bible, and then I will go back to Kenya and teach my people the Bible in Kenya. And so when I came here, it was very interesting because I was working for this guy. He was an electrician. So we went to new houses and we would put the new wiring. And during the summer, I love the heat. Not anymore right now. It's like 2,000 degrees out there. But I'd work like so hard for him, and he loved me. And so when I finished school, he said, don't go back to Kenya. I'll pay you more money to stay here. And I said, Daniel, I'm sorry, but God and I had a deal that once I finished school here, and I was just working here because I was going to school, but now that I'm done, I want to go back to Kenya and be a missionary to my own people. So in 2004, I went back to Kenya, and I started teaching the Bible to the Kenyan people. And it was very interesting. Every time I teach the Bible in Africa, I remember the story of Philip and the Ethiopian eunuch. And the Ethiopian eunuch is reading this Isaiah. I don't know why he chose Isaiah. That's like one of the hardest books you can read. But he's reading Isaiah, and God and Philip is having a time of his life in ministry in Samaria. People are getting saved. Crowds are coming to Jesus, and then God says, "Go to the desert road." And in my mind, I'm thinking, if I was Philip, I would be questioning God's will there. Why are you removing me from all these people and taking me to this place where there's no one? So when Philip gets there, Philip asks the Ethiopian eunuch. But then the Ethiopian eunuch is an African. Did you know that? Ethiopia is a country in Africa, so Ethiopian eunuch is an African man, and he's reading this Bible, and Philip asked him a question: do you know what you're reading? Do you understand what you're reading? And he said, how can I, unless someone teaches it to me? And so every time I'm in Kenya, I feel like that is the silent cry of many African people. How can I know the Bible unless someone teaches it to me? And so everywhere I go, I'm always hunting for African people to teach Bible, even here in Dallas. And so I feel like God sent us there to go and show people that Africans can just teach the Bible as good as the Americans can. And it is very interesting that a lot of missionaries that are teaching in Africa are really elevated above the African people that are teaching the Bible, even though some of those African people are more educated and more knowledgeable, not only of the Bible, but of that culture there. So that's a long story of how I came to America, but that's how I got here.
Where did you go to school when you came here?
I went to Missionary Training Institute in Denton, through Denton Bible Church. They were there, and so they had a Missionary Training Institute, and that's where I went to school.
And then you came back a few years later and did graduate school?
Yeah, I went to seminary in North Carolina. Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary. Yeah.
Very good. Okay. We are going to do part 2 of this next week. Okay? Is that okay? You're interested? So here's what I'll ask you guys to do is if there's a question that you have about Kenya, about the church in Kenya, or even about what Dennis and Allison do, and I mean, there's lots of story. We just feel like we have new friends who stumbled into our church, and God gave us a gift, and so that's kind of how we look at that. And so we want to know a little bit more, about that. And so if you've got questions, you can email them to me, and I'll kind of put them together, and we'll do part 2 next week. Good enough? Okay. So now you know a little bit about them, and so I want to finish by asking you this question. You came to North Point that first Sunday. Why did you come back the next week? Okay,
Yeah, that's a good question. We drive here going to take our kids to school every morning, and I used to see this church here, and I didn't know that the church was meeting, because during the week there's nothing really going on around here. There are a lot of cars out here. So I was the executive pastor at a church in Dallas, in a Kenyan church, and during COVID they were not able to pay us anymore, so we had to leave. And then but we wanted to have a church that is close to where we live, so that we can be in our community. And so I told my wife, let's go to this church. I see it every day, let's go. So we came on Sunday. Brandon and his wife are one of the biggest reasons that we are here. His wife is not here. Is it Rochelle? Is that how you say her name? Mm-hmm. She is a very nice person, extremely friendly. And I don't know if she planned this, but I was sitting back there with my kids and my wife and all the youth from the front here. I'm seeing this army of children walking towards me, and I'm like, what is going on? But they came and introduced themselves to my daughter, and then we discovered that their son and our children go to the same school, and it was just amazing, and just the welcome here. Please don't stop doing it. I know sometimes it feels strange when people come and you're just bombarding them with love and saying hello and just being really, really nice. That's why we came. We felt so welcome and so loved that first day. We went home, and my wife and I just said, we're not going to look anymore. That's it. This is it. And our children loved it, and they didn't want to go anywhere else, which is a plus. When your kids are not pestering you to not go to church, that's a good thing. But right now we are enjoying that period where they want to come to church, so that's good.